whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space, and Jeff Bezos, go, never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care, and it's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And as part of that collaboration last year, I was part of a team that reached out to over 100,000 fathers around the world. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. 2 days before Valentine's Day, ladies and gentlemen. So hope you have someone in your heart on Valentine's Day, and hope you have someone in your heart every day, at least yourself. Start with yourself and then go from there. Every Saturday night around 9 p.m. Eastern time, we have two superstars who are going to drop knowledge bombs and make my editor work every week. And we love to have them. So let's bring on the digital stage Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. What we going on? How we doing?
Good evening.
Good. How's your week been?
Long, very long.
I second that. I thought it was long too. Grueling.
And then today just like sped by, right? Today was like
okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. And families are good. Families are safe.
Oh, so far that we know. I mean, I'm thankful.
How's your daughter, Jill, and Aisha? How's your daughter? Because both of them are in not
at home.
Mine came home for the weekend.
Oh, very.
Mine is still in Austin, and she's there. So that's quite the place. So every day I feel like she's in Afghanistan.
Oh, hold on. 3 minutes and 15 seconds in.
I'm sorry.
Jill has just dropped the first bomb of the. Why do you say that, Jill? Why do you say that?
First of all, I worry all the time, and that's just normal for any mother. But then, given that the state is just, yes, it's cheap for people to live in, but it's really, got some of the biggest boneheads in the world living there, like Joe Rogan, and
they're going through some things.
All sorts of that Governor Abbott, Cruella DeVille, all of the characters, all the worst characters from Disney are there.
I'm just still trying to get used to the empty nest thing. It's like I'm done with work I finish work and then I'm like laying on the couch watching TV
Yeah, that's the tough part too. But at least Voldemort didn't move to Connecticut like he moved to Texas from Harry Potter. So
ladies, just before we really get started, and thanks everyone who's jumping. I'll hail you out in just a second. What are you ladies watching on TVs these days?
Aside from the news, to be perfectly honest, not much. I watch my murder shows when I need a break from the news. But I've been going back and watching shows that I like. That I haven't really paid too much attention to. Like today I was watching season 2 of Leverage, which is one of my favorite shows. I usually watch.
I haven't heard. What's that show?
Oh, it's off the air now, but it's about this team of grifters who do good now. They don't rob anymore to rob.
With Timothy Hutton, right?
Yeah.
Was in that.
Yeah. So I watched all 5 seasons seasons 3 through 5 are my favorites, so I decided to pay more attention to 1 and 2 today.
Okay, all right. And Jill, what's on your
Well,
screen?
I went through that whole Waltons phase that I was going through, and then I was stuck on Hallmark Channel all through Christmas.
Okay.
And now Hallmark has like rom-coms, which are, I think there's just so weird. It's like in fact, Hallmark is so enchanting that it's creepy. Like, it's like fairy tale central, and it's a little weird. Like, every time there's always a shot with somebody coming out of a coffee house with a thing for 4, always walking up. Hey guys, want some coffee? I swear it's in every movie. There's always somebody. I think it's in the contract. Hey, oh, I got to have one of those. It's always in their movies. It doesn't matter if it's the murder mystery Hallmark or what.
Yeah, that's my
always
channel.
I like that one too. So then, it's almost science fiction. Watching that is just kind of wild. So then I started getting into Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote. And I'm watching those again.
Okay.
That's my show.
And
That is my
then
show.
I saw they had McMillan and wife on the other
Oh,
day. And I was
wow.
like thinking, wow, I think this is Aisha, right up Aisha's alley.
Yeah,
But
I
you
love
were
all the
too
old
little
mystery
when
shows.
I remember when that came out.
I'm going to have to watch McMillan and Wife because I do Heart to Heart.
What about
And,
McCloud?
I
haven't seen
I
it.
don't do McCloud. I haven't seen McCloud.
But I
did
did see one with
McMillan and Wife
James
the other
Garner
night.
on.
Oh, the Rockford Files? The Rockford Files.
Yeah.
And all of them weren't most of them produced? Was it Stephen J. Cannell? He produced
He produced a lot of them.
A lot of those, like McCloud,
Magnum PI,
Rockford.
all of those kind of
Yeah.
or those were the Belaruski brothers, but yeah, you're right, Stephen J. Cannell, something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I was looking at, and then of course, then all of that shifted kind of like when the Olympics came on, and that's what I've been watching, like a lot of Olympics.
All right.
And that's kind of exciting.
Well, you know what? Let's do the shout out.
watching.
Let's do the shout out because, and now the first shout out, like when things are going good on a side, I get to post this early, and I posted it on my page on my Facebook and YouTube page. I think around 1 o'clock.
You did. It was 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So at 1:05 Eastern time, Cinnamon Canella goes, "It's been a hot week. Canada process now in France. Same thing. War with Russia and rain the Winter Olympics. Super Bowl tomorrow." So she's been waiting for a number of hours.
Right.
So, and of course, Jen says hello, everyone. Blue
Hi,
Ray
Jen.
says good evening, all. Kevin has become a regular. Every day is Valentine's Day. He says, "What up, ladies?"
Hello.
He also says, "Warm today in New York City and Canada, though
Yes.
spring, but it's got cold again. It's gotten cold in Toronto again now. It's like
It was 60. The high today was 60.
91 in California.
Next comment here. Blue Rain, Dr. Vibe, Jelly Show. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. Kevin's already got into the Bush family. Ugh.
Right.
Jen doing well. Hope you are all well. Jen says she loves McMillan and Wife, and then she goes to the next level. She owns the entire series.
See, I own the entire series of Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all these collectors here.
Yeah, man. You know what? I actually own the first 2 seasons of 24.
Oh, wow. I loved 24.
The first 2, like the first Black president.
That's true.
Yes, but the first 2 or 3 seasons of that show, still.
Yeah.
I can watch it like no problem. Like I said, no, this is not dated for me. It's still, it had a certain edge to it, especially at that time that you didn't
totally
see. And it's so good, unique mystery, suspense, great acting.
At this point in America, we could play his speeches, and people would think he was the first Black president.
True.
They wouldn't know the difference here.
they probably, you know, I'm just thinking if you went to your favorite state and played that, would they fade? I won't even go there.
I know. I'm getting more favorite states every day. Well, there's another favorite.
Oh, can't wait. Okay. And Kevin's saying he's heading to LA on Wednesday. Can't wait to rock my t-shirts during the day and sweaters at night.
Yeah, it's true. It is that weather. Exactly. With the cool weather at night.
There we go. Well, folks, have the appetizer. It's main course time. So let's get after it. Mm-hmm. Again, the first topic, last conversation, and again, this conversation, Ukraine. Ladies, is it going to happen?
I don't, the thing of it is, I just think that Putin is trying to see how far he can go to get reactions from people, and he's not getting the desired reaction that he wants. I mean, he wants an invasion. I mean, Biden coming out and saying that he's not going to do this, I think kind of sends a slight message, but now it's really up to the allies to come and kind of join him and say, we're not going to do this. Go ahead and do what you're going to do. And he's not going to do it. I really don't think that. I think that when they showed the map on MSNBC last night for all the places that he has the military stationed around Ukraine, if he was going to do it, he should have just done it. I mean, he's why be poised to do it and just put more and more forces there and not do anything?
Yeah, to me, what is he waiting for?
Exactly.
Like there must be a reason. You don't just put 100 to 120,000 troops around a country and just let them sit there.
I mean, I don't think that he's prepared for the aftermath.
Well, we're feeling the aftermath. Prices for oil are going up like crazy. Like, Joe, what are your thoughts on Ukraine? You think it's going to happen?
I think something's going to happen. I don't think that they're doing all of this just for a show. I do think that something will happen. To what degree, I'm not sure. I know that, this is all about, they were trying really hard to determine where all of our allies stood. And, we know that Macron met with Putin, like he met with him.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. I mean, he went there, and then so much so that he ended up not even doing a COVID test. He did his own COVID test. I guess he was, really the truth is he doesn't want his DNA spread all over God knows where. That's not what anybody wants. Whatever. That's just kind of a crappy way of saying, nobody wants to get that close to Putin, right? It's because they could get your glass. It's actually, it just makes me think that they all show up with their own waters, their own silverware, their own everything. And I don't know, maybe they all even met outside in the garden. I would have been like, I'll meet you out, cash me outside. Cash me outside. Because at this point, it's that tense where that's even going on, and that's not a great sign for leaders, that you're hesitant like that. And then everyone is a little bit conflicted on what Germany was going to do, because Germany hadn't really committed one way or the other. They were kind of on the fence about where they were standing, when at the end of the day, I think the media here made more of a bigger deal out of it than like the European community was talking about it. They have to be very careful and tiptoe gingerly along with this. But I think that at the end of the day that NATO will stand, because Putin is just pissed because, if he saw any of the memos or anything about Ukraine and Trump gave it to him, the paperwork, he's got to act fast before they turn over that time in NATO and things change and he knows less about our troops or our positioning or whatever. I think that something's going to happen, but because I think Putin was fed some information, and because we're getting a little bit more exposure on, Trump's imbecilic clown behavior.
We'll get to that in a few moments.
All
we'll
that.
Get that in a few moments.
So it's kind of like something has to give, and that's what they want. And they don't. They want to make a move, but it's going to. It won't be very, very. I think it'll be a huge mistake on Putin's.
I think Putin is kicking himself right now, actually, kind of, because it's like, I should have done this 2 years ago.
He should have done it when Trump was in, because
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
what I'm like. You should have done it 2 years ago,
absolutely.
because now, no one's playing with him.
Right. It's like, I don't want to be your friend. And that's what he should have done. But he played that game with, Trump. And you're right, Aisha, I don't think he got everything he wanted until Trump got everything he wanted.
Right. And the thought was,
a lot of
probably
games
on Putin's end, was that Trump was going to win again. And so he would have more time, because ultimately what Putin wants, in terms of for him to have the ultimate power that he wants, it incorporates having more and more land, bringing the Soviet Union back together. And he's not going to be able to do that now that, the United States is positioned the way it is with its allies again. The allies are starting to trust the country again a little bit more. And he's not being constantly fed information the way he was during the Trump administration.
Right. Because it got dismantled. And let's be honest, I don't think that Putin is all that sentimental about the good old USSR. Right. What I feel is that he is a landowner. He wants to be the landowner, and he's still doing his grab and go with his country, like the GOP is doing here, the smash and grab. He's doing the same thing with Russia. And because our intelligence was a little wonky for a bit, I think it's going to be a little bit more where we kind of start to understand what's going on internally there too. And as I mentioned to you guys before we came on the air, anytime you start seeing Snowden tweeting in the middle of the night, like at 4:30 in the morning, about, the CIA is listening into all of our calls, and I was like, son, isn't that why you left the country with that information? Like, we've been new. And really, and if that's the case, we've known it. It's terrible. It sucks. But didn't you take that to the bank when you cashed out in Moscow? And
people
why are
you up in the 80s that they were listening to calls
dude, why are you up at 4:30? Shouldn't you just be asleep? Or do they not let you sleep at the gulag and they drag you out of bed? Or do you not have a job? I mean, what does he do all damn day? What is Snowden living on, y'all? Who's paying his bills?
Follow the money. Who's
paying his bills? Damn.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask some more questions in regards to, President Biden said, Americans get out. And I'm listening to reports on a whole pile of Americans that want to stay. Why? If this country's going to...
Money. Whatever money they are earning there is more of an incentive to stay than to leave. Because people who are greedy that way, they want to hold on to every drain, every last dollar that they can, and Joe Biden made it very clear. I'm not sending the military in to go get any American.
You're reading my mind. He said that plain and clear.
And they are banking on the fact that, he's just saying that they're gonna save us, but we need to get this money.
No, and I think these are the people that we also know. They're businessmen, again, the ones who stayed too long at the fair over in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. He knows who he's talking to. Yeah. I just wish that the American media would start saying these are like mercenaries, and these are people who have contracts over there. So the people who have contracts have been told, that's what they need to say on the news. People who have contracts to do business have been told that they need to leave, because it's not our responsibility to come and collect your when it goes down, so that's the problem.
Do you applaud Biden's positioning at this time?
What else can he do?
I mean, yeah,
But
there's not much he can do. What's he going to do? Go in and start World War III?
well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Now, should America, if Russia goes to the next step, should America get involved military wise?
It depends. What do we get out of it?
Here's my question.
I mean, what do we honestly? What do we get out of it? We are such a war fatigued country. Okay, right now, and I don't
I don't even know if we
see.
could trust the military to go and do it. They're so screwed up with Trump in their brains. I mean, they might start helping the Russians.
Mm.
I mean, I know that sounds really horrible to say. I'm kind of being a little sarcastic, but are we really there yet? I'm not even sure of that anymore. I mean, it would be, I think strategically, we've always tried to keep an eye on Kyiv, because when we say Kiev, it's Russian. That's how Russia always said Kiev. So it's Kyiv.
Right.
So I think we've always tried to be strategic, but let's be honest. I mean, it's kind of a mess too. There's a lot of money to be had and gotten there, and it's a little bit wild westy in its own self. So if we go in, then we're gonna have to clean a lot of house there, and we can barely clean our own.
I just don't think that we have.
I mean, we have to get rid of some bad eggs over there too, that pay homage and fealty to Putin. You know, Putin's not 100% wrong on the fact that it's kind of a shady government, and it is. It's like they can't get rid of their own corruption. I know that the British Army was told to get out today, and they've been trying to train these guys. As I keep saying, what have they been thinking for the last 4 years? You know, and after a point, if you can't get it together, then maybe you guys should just turn the keys over to your country to somebody else, because that just doesn't sound like you know how to get it together. You've been knowing that this man has been breathing down your neck for 4 years, and you've had the whole time during Trump. You've had that whole situation. So come on. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, is he going to do it during the Olympics, or is he going to do it tomorrow night?
Wow.
That's the big question. And is it going to be a part of, boy, if they take down the internet, you know, just because during that game, there'll be a lot of angry people. That's enough for people to want Joe impeached on that just alone. They don't even have to have a war. Just tell people, Americans, they can't watch football.
Can't watch the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
If I would say, I don't know if they would want to do it during the China thing, because they kind of are, you know, Russia, that would be taking money out of out of China's pocket, because all of those games would come to a screeching halt probably. People would want to leave and go back to their designated places.
And the other thing is that's a bad PR move for China.
It is.
China doesn't want to have
and because they have a relationship with Putin. So if it goes down, it still would affect the Olympics.
Putin wouldn't have that ally in China anymore if it went down that way. He wouldn't.
And don't forget, a couple of days ago, Russia arrested the people who hacked us, the Revel, whatever they were called, from last year. Right. So there's a couple of 3-card Monty things going on right now. Like, see, I did this for you, but if you do this for me, and I'm going to do this for you. So there's a lot of good, bad, dirty going on at the same time. So it's anybody's guess. I don't know, you know, and then they don't have that much more time to invade, because the Paralympics start on March 4th. So you tell me what window of time they're deciding to have a war.
Wow.
Putin
don't care.
He might think about it.
I think he only cares if it affects the ally, and he only has one right now, which is China. He loses that one. That really puts him in an awkward position.
And it's air. He can only really do it everything by air this time now, right, that they can see. So that puts him in a very funky position too. I don't know. How's our German? Did we leave Germany, our air base?
I'm
I don't
not
think
sure.
so.
I
I
don't,
don't
I
think
don't
not
think
so.
so.
sure.
But
I didn't
because of
think we
where
did.
China is situated in proximity to Russia and Ukraine, he
Right.
really needs to keep that alliance tight
Right.
because if they do invade, they're going to need to be able to go through China at some point.
Exactly. And they said today, like of course, the only thing that's disturbing to me is that his people are always like, oh, it's just hysteria. Hysteria is just going on. That's what the Russians, the ambassador
I
there
love
is
saying,
saying.
yeah,
Well,
that's their,
that's their
You know.
Fox News version of propaganda, right?
It
yeah.
is. But we'll
Exactly.
see if they want to
Yeah.
go there, then that makes you have to question China a little bit
Yeah.
too. Then if it happens, then you'd have to actually look at China sideways, because you would say, like Aisha said, wait a minute, so you've provided access. I mean, that gets a little bit strange. We know that China had some issues with us because of that boycott mess that Joe Biden had with them about the Olympics. But because technically, let's not forget, Russia really isn't participating in the Olympics.
Yes.
They're not allowed to. But
Not
the
under
Russian
their
Olympic Committee,
community.
which is like every corporation in the world, then just let corporations sponsor the damn thing anymore. That's all I can say about that. That was a joke. That's a joke and a half.
We'll
And
get to the Olympics.
But the United States also has a vested interest in making sure that China stays out of this whole mess, because our economy will, if we have to not deal with China, our economy will fall apart.
Absolutely.
Well, with the inflation as it is right now, that's a whole other conversation.
But I think it's an artificial inflation.
It is artificial.
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And I'm not rich.
Right.
It's artificial. It's not when there has been inflation, I was breaking my back. It was across the board, everything was elevated. This is very different, and it's very weird.
We'll see if Putin goes in on Ukraine. Well, you already seen it. Well, on Friday, the stock market went down and the gas prices are going up. They're already going up. Like here in Toronto, we have the highest price for gas in the city's history right now.
But they're putting it up there. And sometimes it makes you wonder if they all aren't sitting back and deciding that this is a way to make up for the money that they lost
during
year.
the pandemic. Yes.
They're all saying, let's just make this all one big show.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds crazy, but that would be the only reason if
that's not crazy.
Back out of this, and nothing happens, then that's all this was for.
Yeah.
Because the other part of it too is that the products aren't so much in short demand as the prices are going up. They are voluntarily, the businesses are voluntarily not sending enough stuff to stores.
So it's cut back, of course.
They've cut back, and the complaint, on their end, it's like, well, we don't have enough workers. People are getting sick from this and that.
They're not hiring.
But the bottom line is that you just have companies who want to, make up for the money. Now, what's so sick about it is that these same companies, got they got the PPP loans. They got
it's very. We'll end off. We'll come back. I'll ask you what you think from 1 to 10. Will there be an attack on Ukraine by next year? But I listened to a very interesting story about PPE loans this week on NPR's On Point. Mm-hmm. And let me tell, they had some guy. They did a guy who led a group research on it, and they said 75% of PPE loans went to people who made over at least $100,000 a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is.
And crazy. $2 million from what? Kanye West got $2 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of big corporations got big dollars behind the PPP loans, and they're the same companies that are artificially raising prices.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So Kevin says no surprises there. People tend to forget that Toronto is a major North American, but also a global city. Perhaps not as alpha as New York City or London, but it's not cheap. Hence high gas prices and cost of living. Ladies, question on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, meaning nothing's going to happen, or 10, you feel it's going to happen. Odds of Mr. Putin giving the go-ahead for the attack on the Ukraine.
7.
I'm about a 7 too.
Okay. All right.
I think it's a matter of when. Probably not this week. I think that if he's going to do it at all, he's going to wait till the Olympics are over.
Okay. All right.
And when are they over?
Next week.
An audience too, if you want to give
week.
your thoughts on, do you think it's going to happen, yes or no, or on a scale of 1 to 10, please feel free, if you're watching live or even if you're watching on the replay, no problem. Well,
If he does it, then it'll be, I think, after February 20th. But then for me, it's like, then they're going to just cancel the in Beijing, the Olympics, but the Paralympics, where they probably have the most athletes who are scheduled to go there, over 600 of them, with 78 events they're supposed to be participating in. So I'm just like, I don't know. That's cutting it close for a war, unless it's a quick war. Quick, fast, in a hurry, as Tina Marie used to say.
Kevin is saying 7.5. Jen is asking where he is lining his troops up is very telling and ominous. So
yeah,
absolutely. All right. Well, I don't even want to. Well, you know what? I'm just going to put this on the screen, and I'll just open the floodgates. 45 taking classified documents from the White House.
Is anybody surprised? That's the question that I have. I'm like, I watched the news and they're like, oh my God, he took classified documents. Like, and you're surprised?
Right.
I was just waiting for the revelation, to come to fruition, because it's like, I did this perfect phone call with Ukraine and he did everything out in the open. Okay. This was like, I swear to God, if J. Edgar Hoover was still over the FBI, there's nothing he could hold over Trump.
Right.
Like he did all the other presidents, because Trump did his stuff out in the open. So he took classified documents.
He took a Lincoln bus, didn't he?
The transcripts of that call from Ukraine.
Didn't he take a Lincoln bus? He took a Lincoln bus.
I think he did. Yeah. I think he did.
Of course he took classified documents. He took a freaking piece of art. He took artwork from the embassy in Ukraine, actually. We know that. He also, he had that, what was her name? Not Vindman. It was Officer Vindman was the man.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, the lady.
The woman said he packed up pieces that were there because he said he asked the ambassador for his artwork. And he asked at the French embassy, he asked for something that they had too. So I don't know. Of course he took classified documents. And did you guys look at the the packing job? Who packed that stuff for him when he moved out? If you look at the baskets and the boxes and oh my God, it's really a raggedy, poorly run.
But it makes you wonder how they got it to Mar-a-Lago. It makes me think that these boxes were packed and taken before they send all the movers in to do
on a plane,
one day
you're
move
carrying
between.
them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that they took those probably during the elections.
So Kevin is saying laud.
Yeah.
Blue Range is going not surprised at all. Kevin's saying 45 is mentally retarded. Blue Range is saying the question is, what is going to happen to him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
And we have a woman now who was just charged with something with the Department of Defense, taking some documents, I think in Virginia, and she is going to face 96 months in prison.
Right. And what Trump did, now what he did is illegal. The problem is there is no punishment for it in the Constitution. So
basically,
they can't charge him anything.
So what he did is not against the law.
Yes,
No.
yeah,
And
it
what-
is against
the law.
There just is no punishment for it.
There's no punishment for a president, they say. Now, when I'm saying this woman who is now being charged and is being thrown into for the DOD, the odds are she was CIA. She probably was a researcher somewhere. She found some documents, blah, blah, blah. She gave that information to somebody, or she misused it or misappropriated it. But Trump, they keep saying, I mean, they should just say that, hey, become a president. You could kill people. You could do whatever. And literally, he was right. He could shoot somebody. He could have done it right on TV, and they wouldn't have. It's not that they couldn't. They wouldn't arrest him. Merrick Garland is
your buddy, your boy.
No, he's not. He's not. And the more we go into this, he's running out the clock on the statute of limitations on some things. And I think he's doing it deliberately. He's part of the Federalist Society. Let's be really honest about who he is. This bumbling, Tim Conway routine he's got going on. It's
not even bumbling,
done. I'm over.
It's kind of like it's out of spite because he still is like,
I don't think
I'm going to stick it to the federal government because I didn't get the
But those were his friends that did that to him.
That I wanted.
But those were his friends that did that to him, and they all live up in Greenwich, Connecticut. You think those people really see the differentiation other than anything other than their bank accounts? That's it. When you live in Greenwich, you'll all come together at different times at one point, regardless of what party lines you're on. He knew what he was doing when he married his rich wife with a trust fund.
The problem with this for me, though, with Trump taking these documents is you've got to ask two questions. The first is, who did he share these with? And what did he destroy?
Well, who did he share them with? Well, we know that Jamal Khashoggi was killed based upon the go-ahead from Jared Kushner. Yeah. So somebody told somebody where that man was going to be and said it was okay to arrest him. And they said it was Jared Kushner. So I'm sorry. That means somebody took some paper from somewhere with some kind of information about whatever the deal was with Mr. Khashoggi's life. I don't know what his deal was when he came to this country to live here. Was he an operative for us? What was he doing too? So that's my whole point. But somebody set it up, and it was during the Trump regime. So one can only assume.
One of the things that Khashoggi was going to really go in was the connection between Jared Kushner and the guy in Saudi Arabia.
But here's the thing: nobody cares.
That was something that they
Poor Jamal Khashoggi risked his life over something that our country doesn't really give a good goddamn about. Nobody cares.
No, but Jared Kushner cared enough to order that.
Yeah, but they don't even care. They see it as, this is like a movie. He's like Damien. This is like, wow. People are so moronic that, like I keep saying, there are people that will stand by Trump now just because. And there is no hope for them. And I truly believe that. Maybe in another lifetime or something, they'll have to make up for something. But the reality is they will go down no matter what facts you put in front of them.
So Blue Reigns is saying Merrick Garland is useless. Biden needs to replace him ASAP.
I don't think he can, right, Aisha?
Yeah, he can. He can replace him. Merrick Garland actually should just resign. The challenge, though, is getting the new FBI person.
He kept Christopher Wray, which is like
getting confirmed.
Yeah. But, so why didn't they fire some of the other people who were?
Or he could do like a Trump and put someone in on an interim basis.
Aisha, yes. I think you asked, you had your questions about what were the questions again? Because I want to add the third. There's a third question I want to add based on the two you said.
Who did he share it with?
Yes.
And what did he destroy?
Right.
And my next question would be, if I would like to know where any of those are there any digital copies of those documents stored anywhere?
Always.
There should
no, but I mean on where he lives. His
Oh,
copies.
oh, do they have copies?
Yes,
Did they take
yes,
copies?
that's what I'm talking about.
You know what?
That
To be perfectly honest, I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is because the way that Trump handled things in his own personal business was that you don't leave a paper trail,
Right.
digital or otherwise. He was
you're
very
you're
good.
you're going to give him that credit? You
Yeah,
really you think
because guess what? They would have gotten him on tax evasion and everything decades ago.
but
He
this
They
was
is
need
the
to
very
get
good.
his
but
assistant.
this is a
He's
but this is
very
an
good at.
individual think he's above the law, so he thinks he's the king.
But
Yeah.
that's the one
I
thing that is one thing that's like the only thing he's good at is making sure there's no paper trail.
But he was the king. He is. When you have someone like Mueller not arresting him,
Well,
he's
we'll
the
get to
king.
that in a minute. We'll get that in a minute. But
The king.
something tells me I just have a feeling
If
that
there is a digital copy of anything, it's something that he doesn't know about.
But there's always a digital footprint and a copy somewhere. There's a server. There's the copier's machines.
I think the federal
they all
government has
have
digital
a central,
copies, but I don't
right.
think anyone in
So
his orbit does.
why is everybody making all this kabuki theater about documentation? Yes, go find it. Either raid his house and find the papers, or stop talking about it. Because the reality is, you have the papers on a file. They're somewhere in there, and stop with this dribs and drabs you're leaking to the media to get everybody all freaked out, because the reality is, then go arrest him for it. What the are you telling us about it anymore about?
And
go in, and as you go, you say, we raided Donald Trump's house today and we found all these papers, and we found all the papers too, all the memos that he'd eaten like a pig.
Well, you know what, too, Dr. Vibe, the other part of it is this. He didn't need to have other copies because he kept the copies in those boxes. He didn't need to have other copies. He had the copies. So he would only need to have other copies if he destroyed those originals.
But the original is not done on a typewriter or, anymore.
Right.
Or
no,
or
I'm not saying the federal government
that we
doesn't have
used
them.
to
I'm saying
use.
Trump
What was
in
that
his
stuff?
orbit.
Yeah.
He only had those copies because he was too stupid to get rid of them. If he had extras, he wouldn't have kept the originals.
Right.
Well, and Blue Rains is saying, right, if they aren't going to do something about it, move on. And Blue Rains also says LMAO. And then Kevin asks, why are we giving this guy any energy?
Because it's a shocker to watch our country
shocker,
go down
but it's
like
also
this.
a matter of national security. The fact that he had all of this information, and we don't even know the information that he had. That
he's given it to other people for sure, like you said.
Exactly. That he was
for
giving
sure.
it away.
There was the billionaires he had from China over there. He's had Xi Jinping down there.
Remember, he wanted to bring Al Qaeda to Camp David.
Yes, the Taliban.
Okay, the Taliban. He wanted to bring them to Camp David.
Yeah.
Okay. What was he going to do with them at Camp David?
Yeah.
He had, and now we know he had tons of classified information. We only know what we know. We only know the information that they told us was in those boxes.
Right.
We really don't know what was in there, because I think that if they told us exactly what was in there, it would blow our minds.
Right.
We would.
But see, Kevin is saying
unsafe.
Surely with him, you'd have to expect the unexpected. But even if we do, there are people, if they're going to give him carte blanche because he had the benefit of being a president, then let's make sure everybody around him who didn't have carte blanche, make them pay then.
Right.
His children. And I think that will be the line that particularly New York is going to still go for. It's going to take them a while, but people are underestimating the information that Georgia has on him. Georgia. They are not sleeping, and they've got a lot on him.
And they've really tried that DA. They're trying to smear her so bad. And she's like, I'm not afraid. Come for me. I'm not afraid.
Right.
And remember, they voted in a reality TV person who has no political history.
That's not necessarily true. He was not always known as a reality TV person. Donald Trump, growing up, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, was considered a very elite, successful
Huge.
businessman, huge. I mean, you couldn't have gotten any huger. He's referenced so many times on television shows, on everything. And he had a very different reputation than what changed when they say he became a Manchurian candidate in like the 80s when he was starting to have his money problems.
People really thought that Donald Trump was very brilliant.
And see, people don't understand what it's like when somebody can't get a loan. Imagine, just like really sit and think about it. He couldn't get a loan for his projects. Not one. And nobody would deal with him. So, you know, at that level where he was so esteemed, you're looking at all big corporations at that point. They were rivals to him, even the banks. And they would be like, let's give him the squeeze. We could crush him. We could take him down. Banks wanted to destroy him in a way because those buildings would have become their buildings. But what's interesting is imagine not being able to get one damn loan. The way he structured himself with that mob mentality and the tax abatements and knowing all the loopholes in government, he knew loopholes and he still knows them in courts that even the lawyers don't know. And you only get that kind of knowledge from actively participating and understanding human nature. And human nature, they're not that much less dirtier than he is.
Right. And keep this in mind too. Donald Trump was.
They're not any better. They're all out there. The reason most people don't want to go for Donald Trump with his business is because over half of them, if they own several properties, pretty much have done the same things he's done to get their tax credits, to get their write-offs. And he knows who they are. That's on the Democrats and the Republican side. He knows everybody who's writing off this and writing off that and getting higher appraisals than usual for something and then taking out another loan. Please.
He was so engaged in New York politics, right? Let's not forget that. New York City politics, he was so engaged in it to the point that, remember, he's the one who took out the one-page ad when the Central Park jogger case happened. And that influenced a lot of how how the law enforcement organizations handled that case. Okay. So and he still hasn't apologized for it. And
that's true.
He did that not just with that case because it was big enough, but he did that quite often. He would take out these one-page ads to make his position known on certain political things going on in the city. And he was always tight with the mayor. He was always tight with all of the people that, you know, who ran for city council and all of that. He always gave money. He always put his money behind.
He was a fixture. He was a fixture.
He was a fixture in New York politics. Yes. He might not have run,
but he had as much power out of office than in office.
Right. Yep. He did. And he did that in a way that it was beneficial to his businesses, to his bottom line. And so when he went into the United States politics into the White House, he operated the same way he did New York politics, street politics. He played street politics
at the national level. Yeah. So let's just catch up. Comments are flying in. So Blue saying, true, Jill, he was aspiration at one time. Also, he was aspirational at one time. Kevin saying true, but he's a ding dong who grabs women by the and thinks it's okay. Really? They voted for this guy? LOL, LOL, LOL. Shake my head. Also says, good point, Jill. Facts. Cinema saying we need Wiki 45 leaks.
Well, you got to remember too that Trump also, I mean, he a lot of Republicans, and I mean the rank and file, okay, the regular voters, they always vote for the person they can have a beer with. They don't vote for the person that's going to do the job or knows about policy. It's the person that they like.
True.
That they consider can be like a friend.
So Blue Rain says, do you think he had political aspirations back in his New York City days?
In 1988, Donald Trump had mentioned the fact that he might run for governor of New York or president. So he's been building up to this. He just saw his in when Barack Obama dragged him at the White House press corps.
Press corps. Yep.
That was it for him.
The final
That was
straw.
it.
Yep.
Embarrassed, and that was it for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because at this point, it's like where I forget who I was talking to yesterday. It might have been you, Aisha, but at this point, when you go, why would people vote for someone like that? Or he's a ding dong, or he's all these things. Actually, he's not, because the reality is that ding dong, and I've met many ding dongs in my life who are, especially if they've got a lot of money, ding dongs, the way the external world engages with them is completely different. It's not, it says a lot more about people around the masses. It says more about the masses than it does about him. Yes, about him.
I agree.
Because for these types of men can have other men do things to them. I think it was a situation with Puffy, who somebody had said he did something with some girl or a guy or something. I don't remember.
That was Wendy Williams that did that. Yeah.
And he came back and was like, and you know what that is? That would be called power. I don't know if who summed it all up that way. It ceases to be about anything but those 5 letters, POWER. And that's what all of this is. And there's a lot of games that go with it. And nobody cares what anybody's doing or who anyone's sleeping with or all of that. And you can't hurt them after a point. They are Teflon because they are so admired, and they're always there to show their flaws. Here I am, take me or love me. And you win right there. That's why they can't beat him. He's the first to tell you.
What you're referring to is what happened in '97 when Wendy Williams said that Puffy slept with a guy and was caught, and Puffy had her fired from Hot 97.
Yes, he did.
That was that, but the same way, the same thing operates with Trump. And think about it this way: Trump came off stupid as president because he did not realize that the president of the United States didn't operate like the president of their own company. And so every time he found out something, he'd be like, oh my God, did you know this? Nobody knows this. No, you didn't know it. And so he looked dumb because he didn't, and he looked even more stupid because he didn't take the job serious enough to learn about all the things that were expected of him in this role. He wanted to run the United States like a corporation. And that's what the people who elected him to do. And guess what? He ran it like he ran his businesses. He was
terribly.
He stole documents. He ate documents. He cuddled and cozied up with enemies.
He harassed women who worked with him. Yeah,
he harassed anyone who said anything bad about him and threatened to get them fired by running other candidates. I mean, he ran the country like he ran his shady businesses.
And also, that's a bit of an insecurity too, because the reality is, dude couldn't level up, and he's not good thinking on his feet, which is why he never does anything that isn't planned. I feel. I do not feel that there's anything.
He would rise to the occasion. All those people who thought he would rise to the occasion. Rise to what?
He's coy like an old chick from the 1930s.
So Blue Reigns is saying about he decided to run for president once Obama sort of mocked him at the White House dinner.
That was it.
Kevin said, I knew he was going to win. He also says once they had that Hillary lied story, it was over.
Yeah.
And Blue Rain says, and he got away with it.
Right. James Comey's going to have hell to pay one day. One of these days, James Comey is going to have hell to pay. And it would be nice if people actually held him accountable.
And he likes the limelight.
For altering the course of the election, because now we know. Look, now we know about these damn emails with Trump, right?
Right.
Segue. Let's, before we get into it, so let's go right into it. So let's segue. People may not know, a new version of the infamous Mueller Report reveals that Robert Mueller declined to charge 45 Jr. and Roger Stone with computer crimes.
Right. Well, I want to say this. Let's not forget that Bob Mueller was a Republican.
So there you go.
So yes, as is Merrick Garland.
So regardless of what he said he was going to do, there's when what was that guy's name? The one that looks like a walrus, who was attorney general.
Newt Gingrich.
Bill Barr.
Oh yeah, Bill Barr.
Barr.
Yeah.
Bill Barr,
The warthog.
when he was attorney general, he saw the redacted report, and he said there was nothing to see.
Warthog.
He knew.
Right.
He knew that Don Jr. had done this, and that he knew that was in there. I honestly think that the American people are owed tax dollars back from paying for the Mueller report for what, 2 years for him to do absolutely nothing and not tell us everything. That was the game was played on us.
I agree. You know, I was in full support of that. I thought, yes, he's going to do it. And boy, did I feel played. I agree with you. I have nothing to add to it.
At the end, we thought it was a nothing burger, but turns around, 2 years later?
Oh, it was a lot.
Oh, there really was some stuff in there.
And here's the thing, it's like, had he done his job with arresting just those two, then basically it would have altered the course of many things that came down the pipeline afterwards.
Yes.
It's kind of like the butterfly effect. But no, instead, we wouldn't have had a January 6th, maybe. And the poor people who died on January 6th might still be alive.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, Mueller did a really bad, horrible thing.
Point.
Horrible.
Look, Donald Trump was afraid of Mueller for a reason. Okay, let's not forget that. He was afraid of the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation, for a reason, because he knew all this stuff that Junior and Roger Stone had been doing. Because remember when they got the Mueller report, when they hired Mueller, first thing he said was, "My presidency is over."
Right.
He knew. And then when the Mueller report showed nothing, he came out of his cocoon and was like, "Oh, well, see, it totally exonerated me." He's
senile.
It did exonerate him. It did exonerate. We were all like, "No, it didn't exonerate you." But yeah, it did exonerate him because there were crimes committed.
There were. And he could have been arrested for things then. It's just like you ignore a boiling pot on the stove, and 4 years later, the whole pan is burnt to a crisp because you just overlooked that one thing. And, considering, remember when he was testifying and how Junior was writing all those horrible things about, look how senile he is and all this other stuff. See, I'm not liking this whole show because it's now starting to just feel really icky and gross to me. Like, wait a minute. So Trump got off. He should have been thankful. Why was his kid chiding him? Was this part of the charade? Is Bob Mueller really senile? Was this real? And why do our tax dollars have to pay for it?
Yeah.
Because, it's not fair. It's not fair. It wasn't a job well done. And none of these people are anything that their reputations say they are. It's such a freaking disappointment.
But it also did another thing for January 6th, was that it opened the door for Trump to be able to say, "See, they're coming after me for no reason. They're coming after me for no reason.
Gaslight us some more.
You have to defend me. You have to defend me."
It's a hoax. It's a witch hunt.
And remember, when that happened, he kept building on it with other things that any other investigation. Once that investigation, and he could say, "It exonerated me. They came after me for nothing, and you see that nothing happened, and you see I wasn't guilty of anything." That every other investigation, and he said this, any other investigation they do is because they're coming after me. They're coming after you for voting for me. And he kept doing that. Every other investigation,
and it stuck.
They kept saying that, "Oh, they're coming at, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake." And it all stems from that one investigation where no one did anything when they had the evidence.
You're right. And that's what it's shameful. And now the best thing they could do is just load old Mueller up and put him in a home because he was a disgrace. No, really. Because I don't know where either he really just sold our out, or he really was senile.
I'm at a point right now where
I don't know. I used to have a lot of respect for him, but I don't have any at all now.
disbar him at this point because he did not do.
Disbar him, girl. He's like
job.
95, 90 years old, almost up there
But
with
you
Betty
know what, though?
White.
But remember, he's got a spotless record. That one
Not
little mark on
anymore.
his
His,
record.
after this, not today.
No,
He doesn't.
not anymore. But
Today,
still, there's no
he is
punishment. for it.
ruined, and they could only hope that he doesn't even remember his own damn name at this point. It's his family who will have to live with the shame, because it's shameful what he did.
What was his reasoning for declining?
Because he's a Republican, and there's being a Republican, those kinds, the Federalist ones, it's like akin to being, not wanting to cross the blue line as a police officer.
Yeah.
That's why when Knucklehead appointed Merrick Garland as the AG, it really, we should have known just from the speech patterns of Merrick Garland, that is not somebody, forceful. And people resting on their laurels from 30 or 40 years ago. It's like, okay, I know you did the Timothy McVeigh thing and whatever, but come on, man.
It makes you think about his testimony when they brought him to the committee to talk about the report.
Girl,
and
now
you go back and you remember that, and you're like, oh, no wonder he sounded so off, because he was hiding something.
Totally.
He was hiding something.
Yeah. And also, he doesn't really have much pizzazz. Maybe they turned you down because they just weren't into you, Merrick. They just weren't that into you.
He sounded,
good God, man, get a personality.
Someone who's so competent. If you watch some of his other court cases, someone who's so competent sound incompetent during those hearings. Now we know he was hiding something. It's like he was guilty. He was just as guilty.
Wow.
Who? Mueller?
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about Garland too.
Up.
Yeah, Mueller. That's just a done deal. They ripped him a new one by saying, making fun of him on the stand. I felt so bad for him, but now I really don't. I just can't believe that what people would allow to happen to their own reputations with that viper, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What good did it do to him? Everything he touches, he soils. So you're going to
not
just for the office of the presidency, you're going to not arrest him. But in the meantime, if you don't do it, you're his grass, because he will make sure. So now we can't even stand looking at Bob Mueller. In fact, I might go in and burn the book tonight in my backyard. I have the Mueller report. I'll burn it and then I'll post it for you guys to see.
There's a lot of people too that just it's shocking how many people have just gotten rid of all common sense, all decency, all respect, all loyalty to the country behind this one idiot. Behind one person who has no loyalty to anyone.
And they would have wanted him
throw his children under the bus. He's going to.
And these are people who would have never wanted another election again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I know that. He wants to be there for life.
But this is the one thing that I have to say is that because there is no punishment behind this, there's no punishment behind him taking the papers.
Any of it.
Still can run again. That to me, the minimum.
Because if they don't,
from taking the papers should be that he cannot run.
Well, that's the punishment. Normally, you can't hold an office again. But they're not even. They're thinking, the DOJ, as of yesterday, was thinking about if they should charge him.
Charging who?
If Barack Obama had done that, there would be
Barack Obama, they'd have raided his house, they'd have shot him on impact, and they probably would have killed the whole damn family.
And they would have found a way to arrest Michelle, Malia, Sasha.
Absolutely. And the dog, Bo.
They would have exiled them from the country.
Yeah, they would have. It would have been like, the Romanovs. They would have come after them because that's what it was like. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's completely.
Even if the Clintons did this, okay?
the Clintons did a lot that they should have been dealt with too quickly.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the
when they left,
reality
remember
is,
all the stuff that they had taken from the White House?
But we never did anything when there were weapons of mass destruction that really weren't there. We've never punished anybody for lying.
No.
And probably never will.
No. The only president who
that was pretty bad. That was a pretty big lie too.
The only president who was the only
because if we'd have arrested Cheney and Bush,
oh my gosh, now you're going deep now. Cheney, you're going into Cheney now.
They lied.
Oh God.
And Cheney didn't even face jail time for shooting his friend in the face.
Right, but people have selective reasoning and memory because
selective memory.
It was pretty obvious. There were newspapers putting out that there are no weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
People also knew that there was nothing going on in Afghanistan. That was not where the bombers originated from. Anybody who had a brain knew they were from Saudi Arabia. It was just, to me, there was that. How we ended up over here, I don't know.
Well, but we ended up in Iraq because he was trying to get revenge for his father.
Because the media got on board with feeding the lie. And here's the thing, the media can't have it both ways now and actually really be, saying something that might be truthful because nobody believes them anymore. They spoke with forked tongue one too many times, or were Chicken Littling too much. So that's where they lost everybody because they got caught in their lies. You can't be a liar and a truth teller too. You can't be both.
You have to ask the question though.
There were just too many networks that were supporting the war, and it was obvious there was no real proof that there were weapons of mass destruction. There was no proof. Yeah. They even showed the one guy with the what's her name? She's got the show, Chris John Amanpour. They weren't there. They weren't there. There was a guy when they were looking and hunting. It wasn't there.
But there was also this air that people are like 9/11 brought us together, but there was also this element of 9/11 where you saw how white people handled it versus how other people dealt with it, which was very different because you think about all of the Mexican workers who worked at the restaurant on the top floor. You think about those Black children from DC who died on the plane with their teachers on their way to California. And I think the way that people got behind 9/11, that whole thing fed that they got on board with go after whoever. Go wherever you want to go.
No, I think, I'm going to have to say something about the Mexican workers or the people that were in the restaurant business. I worked in the restaurant business during that time. And the chefs that I worked with were 100% standing there. And actually, Giuliani, as sick as he was on that note, he actually did a really good job. That I cannot say there was a difference. There was unity in New York. I don't know about the rest of America because I wasn't living anywhere else.
Right.
But I really felt that it was a New York situation. It felt we were attacked and we felt it. And we really did come together because we lived with seeing those people's faces every day for months and months. And the smell of burning bodies was in the city for months.
I'm speaking to the rest of the country. The rest of the country.
The rest of the country doesn't count because the rest of the country hasn't had anything happen to them. Other than normal,
but they were behind but they were very much behind the war, going wherever it went.
But that's just because Americans are warmongers. That's because white America loves to go and be colonialists. They love it. They play video games and get off on that.
And that was
I told somebody the other day that when there used to be lynchings and murders and hangings and guillotines, like from executions in like the medieval days, that 9 months later they could calculate an influx of babies being born because it aroused public consumption of things like that. It aroused people to go home and have sex with each other. It was a study that's been conducted many times during many different periods of time. So it's so strange to me. America was not New York. That's all I can say. New York is not America.
So Kevin is
California
saying,
is more America than New York.
yeah. Kevin says, never forget that day I was on the way down to Federal Plaza to get my visa extended. Also, he says, true Americans are warmongers, 1,000%.
They are.
Well, which explains why there are so many people, believe it or not, that, and mostly on the right, who want America to go into this thing with Putin.
They do.
Wow.
They really do.
It's insane when you hear it, because it's like we don't need to. It's not. What's it going to do for us? It's not going to make things. It's not going to make things better stateside. But you have all these people who want to do that, and if the scary part is that if Trump had the opportunity,
they just want to kill. They want to kill black people. If they can't kill this year. I don't know when the next year for killing is coming up, but there's never not a year that a white American male doesn't want to kill something, whether it's an animal or hunting, or the odds, the majority of how they're raised with the belief systems, the cowboy mentality. It's really a horrible, horrible look.
Well, Fox News is now, every now and then talking about how we're inching closer to a civil war.
And they don't even go to the war. Those guys don't ever go. That's the ironic thing.
No,
they never go, but they've made sure that our people of color go because they are so limited in ever owning a house, ever having anything in going to college, that they have to sacrifice their children in order to have anything and to save this country, or to sacrifice, to be a blood sacrifice. And then rich white kids don't go. They go to college and become advertising executives. And which is just a glorified liar, if you ask me. That's all an ad person is, a glorified liar. Just like a lawyer, a glorified liar.
This is one thing I do have to say about this Mueller report that really that's bothering me now that we know about all this. I am so sick of Congress and their damn committees. So they're going to have a committee to look into this. What do you need a committee for? It's there in black and white. He didn't tell you, and he didn't do it. So there needs to not be any committee about this. It's in black and white. There's nothing for you to find out or figure out or investigate at this point. Don't waste time, because even this January 6th committee right now is a waste of time at this point. You've got over 60,000 pages of documents, and you haven't come up with anything yet.
Thank you. It's about as helpful as a game of Parcheesi. In fact, that's all they need to be doing in there is playing Chinese checkers or Parcheesi. I think we'd figure it out quicker, because to be honest with you,
don't form another committee.
The committee, let's just call them.
Just say we got duped.
Yeah, the Parcheesi board, this one, and then we get the text from Adam Schiff, like, oh my God, they're getting close.
Donate $15 to help us.
I'm having so much fun texting back to people now. Some of the grassroots people. I used to be one of those people, but I'm not going to be there anymore, because it's a waste of time.
Remember Kevin Bob Mueller text, the Bob Mueller text. This is Bob Mueller. I'm working on the report about this and that. Can you donate $15 to the DC?
Right. I'm about ready to walk up there and say, "Can you give me my money back?"
Yeah, correct. So Kevin's saying correct on lawyers, liars. Totally. He calls it LY instead of LAR.
Liars.
Liars. All right. Let's go to our next conversation piece on the north side. Well, actually on both sides of the border. Yeah, because
we started it, right?
Yeah. Well,
you started it.
We started, but there's money coming in from your country to keep it going.
I know.
Not only money, but you got bodies. You got people going.
Yeah, I with one of the so we're talking about the trucker protests in Canada, number of different aspects. So a little bit of update. The main occupation is still going on in Ottawa. It's going on for about just 9 days or so, and they're still calling in more and more police to try to move the people out. At the Windsor crossing, yes, it's certainly reduced in the last 24 hours because the city of Windsor won a restraining order or some sort of court order to arrest and ticket at any will.
Wow.
Now, Jill's favorite state, Texas, is involved in this because I know that, well, initially there was a GoFundMe that raised $9 million to help the protesters. And when that got shut down, then I've heard there's at least one or two other funding things that are happening. And one of the major sources are people in Texas donating to this.
Yeah.
Well, so, and it's so very interesting because the American media is covering this as much as the Canadian media.
Well, to an extent. Here's the thing: Fox News is covering this
of course,
in a way very way that's very much propaganda. And it's like, they're fighting for your own freedoms in America. I mean, it really is like that. The rest of the media is covering this as a news item. This is what's going on in Canada right now. This occupation here, these protests, et cetera, et cetera. But Fox has spent more time covering this protest in Canada than they have
their own news.
They haven't covered the Mueller thing at all. They haven't covered what was it?
Ukraine, hardly, right?
They're not covering Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they're not covering inflation. They're not covering. They've dedicated like 75% of their news coverage to this.
You're
but
kidding.
They could stop. No. The banks need to get involved, and they need to stop the money wires going into the accounts. They just need to stop all transactions with the SWIFT accounts. Yeah. Just stop it. And a story.
GoFundMe
even if it's the Bitcoin stuff, you can go to the SWIFT, cut it down. Everybody
GoFundMe
knows.
is shutting these down and refunding people. But what you're going to end up having,
don't refund it right away. Are you kidding me? You get refunded after they figure out if you're not a domestic terrorist and you're trying to subvert and overthrow another country. That's against the law too. Well, and actually,
the money's going to start coming in.
Your guy Trudeau needs to come back with that and hit hard that they should be fined or something.
Well, they are at Windsor. They're doing now. They're fining them, and they're also towing their trucks away.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, Ottawa has not. They haven't gone that way and on. And the Ottawa has been going on for a longer time than the Windsor one. And actually, another border crossing in Alberta, they've shut it down. They've shut it down. So my question is, someone made a very interesting comment on Twitter saying, "Well, this is interesting. So if you get ticketed and you're a trucker now, how are you going to be able to cross the border if you got tickets on you?"
Well, you can't.
Did you find any sense of the protest? Do you see it has any value, anything to stand on?
Well, they tried to do what they kind of do in France, which I had mentioned last week when we chatted, like, they're trying to do like France would do things like, we want to be paid higher wages. We're going to like stop in the middle of the road and all the truckers shut things down. But it's very interesting because France is having their own issue with protests as well, because Fox is also being the vehicle to spread all of this, to incite other countries. They're starting to see it in Australia, and they saw it in New Zealand today. But New Zealand did something very interesting.
Okay, so why is this happening in America? New
Zealand handled it very differently, and it's clever. They, with their protesters, the police played the Macarena for the whole duration of their protests. Loud Macarena over and over and over. And then when that got to be, after about 8 hours of the Macarena, they switched over to some Barry Manilow tunes. Now, I don't know what they're doing, like psyops. Isn't that like you start doing, next thing you know, they're going to have that metal stuff going that they play at, Guantanamo. I mean, that's the only thing you could start doing to these people, because they don't want to hurt them. They want to allow them the right to. But now you have people like Rand Paul, who's inciting things like, I hope that they clog all the arteries of traffic in the cities. So basically you have a senator here in America wishing that people die, because that will affect our EMTs, it will affect our firemen and first responders. So Rand Paul, just for his filthy, disgusting mouth, needs to never be allowed to be in. And everybody who's in Kentucky, you redneck hillbillies, get it fixed. How stupid are you people going to be?
And Rand Paul says that as
Damn
okay.
it.
Remember, he's a doctor, and he said that about the.
He is no doctor, girl. I'd like to. That man ain't no doctor.
To answer your question,
Daddy
Dr.
probably
Vibe,
bought
why
him
isn't
that
this
too.
happening in the United States?
I'm so sorry, but this is what really makes me crazy. Is there used to be a level of decorum that came with the job. These people are senators, congressmen. I spit on them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pick him up if he was laying in a gutter.
To answer your question, Dr. Vibe, the reason is it is happening in the United States.
Disgusting.
Remember, it started here at these protests at the state capitals when the mask mandates first started.
Yes.
It started here. They were doing it here. The reason that they're not doing it here right now is because a lot of these states have decided that they're going to relax their mask rules. So they don't really have any reason to get up in arms. There, all these Joe Biden relaxed that rule about federal people who were federal government workers or worked for the Fed had to be vaccinated. So people are, because they don't want these people to protest and riot and all this other stuff.
They're low mentality, common denominator thinkers. They don't even think. And I got to say something for you guys in Canada. Do yourself a favor and make your borders really strict. You know how Americans don't want Mexicans to come in? Y'all need to make it where you don't want Americans to come.
Remember,
because I believe that this country has the dumbest living here that I've ever seen in the world. And I will go on record as saying it. I am very, very convinced that we have the most uneducated people on the planet. And anybody want to show me differently, please be my guest. Because I believe the ratio of intelligence here is not very high.
Well,
and a lot of them have jobs and they're thieves. That's why they steal, because they're really not that smart. And they've always been this way. How do you get in line with somebody who's oppressing you? How do you do that? That's why I'm so sick with Kentucky. Are they crazy? Oh, that's right. Because they don't allow Black people to really do anything there. That's right. And that's why you all have to keep shooting up. What about the genocide going on in this country of African-American people, period, by your law enforcement? Please.
Yeah. And Kevin is saying, they're crazy.
They're beyond crazy. They're beyond crazy. Wait, I just want to make one other really, really clear point that people, because it's not on our topics, but we should talk about this. If we do not deal with what they're doing with the education system per Betsy DeVos and her stupid brother, Eric Prince, there will be no public schools for children to go to. I give it 25 years, maybe 30. There will not be public schools. Because if you look at how that is being crafted and carved away, and you look at what's not happening, as opposed to what is, it will scare you. They do not want people who are not in the 1%. It will be serfs. It will be the freaking, back into
system.
the medieval times.
The best
Absolutely.
way to think about that is think about how they did in the past. Remember
will do that.
They first started,
because that would be considered
integrating schools. They first started integrating
socialism.
Schools. White citizens councils had them close. Instead of integrating, they would just close the whole school district down.
Yes.
For years. I was reading about this one that closed. I can't remember where it was. I think it was Virginia or someplace. But they closed the school district down for 6 years. And they had to open it up by law. They were told to open it up. But they closed it down to not have to integrate and send all their kids to private schools.
This is as Black people, we have to fight for our lives, and not just our lives right now, our children's lives.
Well,
because they will not have a place here other than serving some other little rich kids. And that's what it's going to be.
Well, it's interesting. In all this coverage, I haven't seen any black people protesting.
No.
Well, you didn't see any black people at these state house things too when the mandates came down.
No. But I don't know. They might pull up and have some snipers sitting on the rooftop somewhere. It's at that point. We are at a decibel where people have been screaming for so long now that nobody even hears it.
Well, I think that this is going to continue on for a while.
And with that nitwit, Merrick Garland not being a force. And here, let me just be really honest here.
You and your boy.
No, and I'm going to talk about Joe Biden too. Let me tell you something, Joe. We put up with a little bit here. Hey, I think he's great, a nice man. But a little bit of tough love in your home might have worked with your other son. Okay, let's just be really straight up. Some people, a hard head makes a soft behind. The one son was fantastic, amazing. And I'm not saying his son Hunter, but we're putting up with a lot too. Many people have kids that have their problems with drugs and whatever. But dude, don't treat this country the way you ran your house raising your kids. We need you to be a little tougher.
All right. Well,
because that didn't work out.
We will hope that cooler heads preside at least in Windsor, but it looks like this, and definitely people keep a watch of what's going on in Ottawa. The Windsor thing has subsided a bit, but what's going on in Ottawa is really, really, really interesting. I think that's more interesting because it's been going on for a longer period of time. So Just want to shout out Dr. Tachi's in the house. So people,
and they think the Queen has COVID, by the way, guys.
Who?
Pardon me?
The Queen?
They think the Queen of England has COVID. That's the rumor.
Yes. And Dr. Tachi hosts Mediascope, live online program about media, tech, and pop culture on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. on Instagram Live, 6 p.m. on YouTube, YouTube, Facebook. I can't keep up. YouTube, Facebook, maybe LinkedIn Live, whole myriad of platforms. Just follow her. It's all worth it. And Real Django saying, as I walked in, Jill was going off. Yes.
Sorry.
Dr. Chachi says thank you. And Bun the Queen, can't wait for it to be gone. It
doesn't matter. She's still a part of an institution that will exist. And hell, she might already be gone for all we know. But the reality is it's still in process. And I'm not so sure, that we're ready for all of those changes at the moment yet either. Because what goes in place, let's just be really honest. Is it a bad thing to have some kind of role model somewhere? Somewhere, anywhere.
Let's parking like that for next week. I think that's a very interesting be a very, very interesting conversation. So
we don't have any now.
Yeah. Last conversation topic. Is anyone watching the Olympics?
Me.
I'm sorry to say that I'm not.
I am.
So Jill, talk to me about the Olympics and also talk to me about the 15-year-old skater.
Well, the great things about the Olympics is that there's a lot of older people who've won some really great medals. Like we're talking snowboarding, I think the oldest guy was 40 and on the cross country snowing on the, it's like a cross country, you're skiing, but you're on your snowboard. And then a girl who was 35, a woman who's been doing it for a long time.
I was actually last Sunday, I was having lunch and in the restaurant they had screens and we were watching these ladies on the snowboard going off the ramp doing I'm going, what?
Oh yeah, we have our American, I think Chloe Kim, she got gold on that. But the other kids coming in for the males going up to 25 feet, it's pretty crazy.
So Blue Rain's saying no, she's not watching it. Kevin's saying watching Canada play hockey. Well, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. It's always a big rivalry in Canada, the US, and actually the US men's team beat the Canadian men's team, and
which was shocking.
No, well, not yes and no a little bit. The thing
Really?
is, there's no NHL players playing this year, but there are veterans who have past NHL players on the Canadian team that got beat by the USA team. And of course, Canadian women versus USA women is always a battle.
Well, what was interesting, we had a shift here where some of our Chinese Asian girls decided to go and represent
Yes.
China as
China.
opposed to,
Yeah.
you know, and then there
Yes,
was one girl who was
yes.
born here, American Chinese
And she's like
girl.
a big star in China. I can't remember her
Yeah,
name. I
well,
heard
the Eileen Gu is the one who's the big star. She's got dual citizenship. Another girl, Ji somebody, she gave up her American citizenship to go and be in China. I don't know why she gave up her citizenship. She didn't have to.
right.
But that might have been a bad move. And she's actually ridiculed a lot living in China. They don't make it easy. She doesn't speak Chinese properly to them, and they rib her all the time. Now, the one who grew up here and her mother is from Beijing, she went back. And so a lot of people were angry because she got a gold medal on the slalom and, you know, it was for China. And
Yeah.
so people were like, oh my God, this sucks. And she's a traitor and all this stuff. And, you know, it's just, and then we had Nathan Chen, who's
Yes, who
ice
won his
skater.
gold medal. Yes.
And
yes.
he was born here. So his mother was born in Beijing. But, you know, he said he doesn't really read any of the Weibo, which is where they get up to talking mess about people. It's their Twitter.
So
Facebook.
Real Dango says that, yeah, he prefers the Summer Olympics over the Winter Olympics.
Me too.
Kevin saying Canadian women beat the USA women the other night. Yes, that
I
is
don't know.
true.
We have some amazing. I mean, I think you know, there's some African American girls right now who are ice skating right now. Not ice skaters, but speed skating.
Oh yes,
and
yes, I've
you're
seen.
missing so much by not supporting them in that endeavor because, first of all, it's something else to see just how accomplished they are and how fast they are. And,
True.
you know, it's just opening up the sport and making it that much more diverse. So I think it's really, you know, I know people are used to seeing, you know, track and field representation and all of that, but truly there's more to life than just the Summer Olympics for Black people. Black people need to start embracing Winter Olympics because these kids are doing some amazing things. Two girls in particular, and I think the one girl called Biney, they call Mame or something. She's like some scientist studying at university.
Right.
But all in all, I didn't think I would watch it this year, but I started to really admire that ability to get up and go and to have a dream and to really fight for it. Because frankly, I don't think young people have enough of it anymore. Call me naive or silly, but I'd rather see them doing that than going and, you know, tearing up stores on Rodeo Drive and stealing purses and handbags and all that, or doing fake protests for Black Lives Matter and then be nowhere seen for the next however many years. You know, that's disingenuous and it makes people not believe a word you say in your lifetime. They don't buy you and they believe that you're people who don't keep your word about anything. So that's why people don't take us very seriously in America. If you really want to know, there's far too many of us with a lot of lip service going on about all this and that during the protests. And then afterwards, when it gets really hard and in the trenches, hello, anybody here?
Maybe they're hanging out. Well, maybe they're hanging out with your boy,
Merrick Garland. Yeah, it's like we have to develop some kind of things. And so for me, watching these people, some who've been trying forever and ever, and then to see them win from all over the world, and also it was so nice to see how they interact with each other from all these different countries. I like it.
All right.
I just got an alert that it is going to be 25 degrees colder.
Thank you. Tomorrow. Okay.
25 degrees colder.
Told you. All right. Well, folks, that's another episode of what we call State of Things with Aisha and Jill on every Saturday evening, around 9 p.m. Eastern time. And this is what we do. We just have fun. and just spin the world. We put it's like the globe. The axis is Aisha
Yeah.
and Jill, and then the axis. No, you know what? That would be a good little thing. Have a picture, have a video of you two, and just spin the globe.
Spinning it, put our finger on it. I used to do that as a kid. That's so funny.
Spin the globe. Well, here's a trigger question. Does anyone have these days an atlas?
I did in the car. I have a
used
picture
to
of me
have
with an
one.
atlas. How funny is that?
I'd say because
On
an
the
atlas
road,
of one
I
a
used to
book
keep one
atlas
all the time.
All right, good stuff. Well, as always, thanks everyone. Jen says great conversation. Dr. Tachi, good stuff. I'd like to thank Real Django, Kevin, Blue Rays. Who else? There's some other people jumped on. If I
Django.
didn't get
Cinnamon
Django, a little bit of
vanilla.
Django got on, and thank you everyone for all your support
Dr.
as
Tachi.
always. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. Always reach out if you want us to chat about specific subjects. And before we call it an evening, as always, contact information for the stars of the show. Because I'm just fodder.
Right, sure.
I am.
Although Canada's, heating up. You've got your own segment now.
Like I said, we're on every one of your channels.
You really are.
Like, I mean,
it's so sad to see it go.
Like this is what they want to talk about Canada. Like, I guess you mean there's no news going on in the US? Really?
Oh, by the way, when I was saying about the Hallmark Channel, they film it all in Canada.
Yes, we know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fairy tale country. Well,
okay.
Wait till they have the protesters in the background.
Well, Jill, how can people get in touch with you?
Jill D. Jones, Twitter, or Jill Jones Music on Instagram.
Wonderful. Aisha?
Aisha Staggers on Twitter. I'm going to be there a little bit more than I have been in the next.
You took time off?
Well, I haven't been posting as frequently, but it's mostly been because I've been so busy at work. I get done with work and I'm just like out.
You just call it. All right. No problem. I am Dr. Vibe, host. I don't know what I do here. Host, moderate. I don't know what I do. I don't know what I do, but I just hang out with these two wonderful ladies. Host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, and also 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also hosts the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers. It's co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central. Want to make sure also that you can catch replays of these epic conversations on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube and Facebook, or you can go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. As always, we end off the conversations with this: live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And I end off these days with this. I had something in my head and it just moved. So I'll end off with this one thing. Remember to give yourselves grace, and also don't manage your time, manage your energy. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Looking forward to another epic conversation, and have a safe week. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good.